I was a kid. Yeah, well, obviously. But when I was a kid, we had walnut trees all over the place. I didn't know what they were, you know. I didn't associate that wonderful nut that you eat with the berry that the tree produces. I just remember trying to mow the lawn, having these yellowish green things that as soon as you grab hold of it, that stinks. You throw it off, and you go, hey, this stinks. And you go wash your hands. God, you can't get rid of it. You know, and then it occurs to me later, and you see them later on in the woods, they're black and they're rotting, and you kind of see a little bit of the hard shell. And still I didn't figure out that that's what it was, this wonderful nut. This obnoxious, smelly, oily thing was more than it appeared. More than it met my eye. I just saw it as something on the surface and threw it, discarded it. Didn't realize that walnuts were a beneficial, healthful nut that we eat. Didn't see that. Just as the people in this story of Joseph, you know, it's interesting to see that Potiphar had a different set of eyes than his wife. Potiphar saw something in Joseph, this slave boy that he bought from traveling Ishmaelites. Potiphar could see something going on inside of Joseph. Joseph seemed to have more than met his eye. It was like Aladdin, right? A diamond in the rough. And so he elevates Joseph, and he sees that Joseph, whatever he touches almost, is very successful. Maybe not always. Maybe the story embellishes a bit. I'm sure there were failures along the way, but in general, he saw all kinds of things happening. And for some reason, we don't know why, but he sees that the Lord is involved and was with Joseph. We see that even Potiphar has the eyes to see that the Lord is at work in Joseph. It doesn't say how this happens. We don't know if Joseph said, I do this because I love my God, and my God is with me and gives me success and strength and everything else. And then we see Potiphar's wife, who sees just the surface. She just sees this walnut. She doesn't see anything beneath this person of Joseph. She just sees the outer surface, sees good looking, you know, and I want to stress my power over this young man, and I want him to do what I want him to do, when I want him to do it. And Joseph won't budge in his integrity. Because we find that Joseph does have the Lord with him, giving him strength, even in temptations. Even when things could have been easier for him, he decided not to go back on his faith with God. And like I said, there's a lot of the story that's missing because you can't be human without having failings and setbacks and failures in life as a person of faith. It's just not human to do. But we see that Potiphar's wife continues to bother him day by day by day. And I find it interesting in the story that in this whole scenario, Joseph doesn't say a word. Doesn't say a word except that it's against God if I do this. But after he's accused, silence. After Jesus is accused, mostly silence. There's silence there. And you wonder why Joseph didn't say anything. What was it inside Joseph that made him continue to just take what he's been given and resort to living in prison and making the best of it there? We don't know. But we do know that in this story, God doesn't abandon Joseph in any manner. Even in prison, he is showing his faith through his works with other people. The chief guard notices this and continues to beg him favor. And then as soon as we learn later on that Joseph has a knack for interpreting dreams and becomes in favor with Potiphar once more. Potiphar would have normally, would have been in his right, and what usually happens if you found yourself in a situation where his wife was taken advantage of, the norm was to execute the perpetrator. Potiphar doesn't do that, which is curious. There's something about Joseph that Potiphar just can't let go. There are people that are diamonds in the rough, I know our sister congregation has had a lot of trouble in their neighborhoods and their communities with things going on. If you remember Darius Simmons a couple years ago, a boy very active in the youth group at All Peoples was shot down by a neighbor, and you just don't know what this boy could have accomplished, what could have become of him in his life. He was a diamond in the rough, but evolving as a person, evolving as a Christian, and some people just don't have the eyes to see that. They can't see below the surface of the shell of a person to realize there's something deeper inside that we're not looking at. We don't want to see oftentimes. Because sometimes when we look deeper, it makes us vulnerable. It makes them vulnerable. And that's a scary place to be. I'm sure Joseph had his times. And God was with him. And I'm sure that even if Joseph had failed, God would still make things happen in his life and the lives of people around him. We hear of guilt by association. And we grab onto that. We understand that. Who are your friends? Obviously, your friends are not doing the right things, and you're with your friends. Obviously, then you're associated with whatever they do, because they are your identifier in some cases. In Joseph's case, it's more of the people that are around Joseph are blessed by association. Because whatever Joseph does, whatever he says, there seems to be a percolation of waves that kind of go out, that affects other people around him in a positive way. Potiphar sees it. I'm sure others in his household see it as well. In your communities, in your lives, in your working lives, you are the Josephs, whether you realize it or not. What you do and faithfulness in God and how you do your ministry in your day after day lives, it percolates. It makes a big impact in whatever's going on around you. People see that. Sometimes they don't realize what's going on, but there's a sense about you that they can see there's something more to you than just simply meets the eye. That company that builds people up, the company that looks for people's strengths and realizes and engages that and rewards you and confirms you and builds you up, that's a blessed community. We are all like Joseph in a way because we have that God within us. And whether we fail and whether we succeed, God is still acting in our lives, giving us eyes to see the other, looking forward past the shell because we know that there's more to us than meets the eye. And obviously, we know in our faith that things aren't always what they seem. But this Joseph wasn't what he seemed. He just wasn't a slave boy. There was much more to him. We're not just simply below Joe on the street. There's something more to us that meets the eye. It captures and captivates people. God does that with us. That spark, that light, what have you, that draws people to you, draws you to them. Building, relationship after relationship upon relationship. God gives us eyes to see, and blessed by association we are.